she was very close to this cousin, Dalek, and she probably loved him. Very handsome guy. And she told me that he was after her to go to sleep with him. And she said to him that if she did that, she became pregnant, she'd have to jump out the window and kill herself. So she didn't sleep with him. So then she had a romance with a blind violinist. She said it was amazing that he took her all over Warsaw and knew every place and where to go and all of that, and was interested in marrying her, and she was interested in marrying him. But her uncle talked her out of it. He said that if she has a baby, he wouldn't be able to see the baby, and that this would not be good. And the uncle broke that up. Meanwhile, she was already maybe 20, 21, which is over the hill over there. My father, when we started out in Pilz, for some reason he didn't work in his mother's bakery. He started out when he was in Pilz delivering clothes for a tailor. And then when he was 14, he decided to run across the border to Germany to find work. As he was going across the border guards shot at him, and the shots made the hat that he was wearing come off his head, and there were bullet holes in it. So they brought that hat back to his mother and told the mother that he'd been shot and killed. So the mother thought he was dead. When his mother was pregnant, she was at one point in the mikveh and became friendly with another woman, and they agreed that if one has a son and the other has a daughter, the two of them will get married. And my grandmother had my father, the son, and the other woman did have a daughter. So then my father went back to Pilz to visit his mother. So when he went back, since he couldn't read or write, he never wrote to her or anything. When he came back to the house, knocked on the door, she opened the door, saw him standing there. She said, "Spirit, go back to your grave." And she thought he was a ghost. So he convinced her that he wasn't dead, and he came in to visit her. And at that same time, my mother came to Pilz to visit her father. So my mother had a cousin who was a shotgun, a matchmaker. So he introduced the two of them. And my mother said they took a walk, and she said he was so handsome she couldn't bear to look at him. And then during this walk, she asked him what he earned. And he told her a lower figure because he didn't want her to be interested in him for the money, so he told her some figure. And then he showed her a picture of himself. And she looked at it and said, "That's nice," and she gave it back to him. And he said, "No, you may keep it." So she said to herself, "Boy, this guy is interested in me. He's letting me keep the picture." So then he went back to Germany, and she went back to Warsaw. But he was writing her postcards. He didn't know how to write, but friends, they had these, and I have some of them still in my albums. They were these picture postcards, but the pictures were these old-time pictures of a man and a woman with some writing, "I love you," this kind of flowery stuff. So he would send her these postcards that other men would write for him. And she got these postcards. And then in one of the postcards, he addressed her as darling. So she wrote back and said, "You can't call me darling. It's not proper." And then he wrote back and said, "It's all right for me to call you darling because I'm going to marry you." They were making a wedding. And so my father said to his boss that he has to go to Poland. He's getting married. And the boss said, "You can't go now. It's the busy season. I need you, whatever." And my father said, "I can always get another job, but I can't always get another wife." So he left, and he went to Poland. Meanwhile, his mother was not happy that he was marrying my mother for a number of reasons. First of all, she had that commitment to that woman in the mikveh. Secondly, my mother was taller than my father, and she had freckles, which was not good. And she was slim. And then the mother said she had read in the paper that some woman in Warsaw gave birth to, with a similar name, gave birth to twins. And how did my father know that that wasn't my mother and she might already have children? And then she said, what do you know about this woman? You only took a walk with her, you know. So then my father started to have doubts about the whole thing. And he said that he went to sleep at night and that my mother's dead mother came to him in a dream and said, marry my daughter, she'll make you a good wife. And my father woke up from that dream and he said he's going through with the wedding. My mother's uncle had given her a nadin, a dowry, and she had lent it to a cousin who was a gambler, and he lost it. So she didn't have a dowry. And she was petrified as to what would happen, didn't tell my father. So they're starting with the wedding and everything, and my father's waiting and talking to that uncle. And he said, my father used to say, the uncle kept putting his hand in his pocket, and my father thought he was going to come out with the nadin, and he came out with a pocket watch or with something. He never came out with the nadin. So my father asked about it, and he found out what happened. So he felt that he was being tricked into this wedding. There was no dowry, and he ran away. And so all the people at the wedding ran after my father because they said he would shame my mother to be at the wedding and not to show up. And my mother was an orphan because she didn't have a mother, and that my father shouldn't do that. So they caught him, and one man had a cane. My father was wearing a collapsible top hat. So that man took a cane and he hit my father, and that hat collapsed. And they brought my father back to the wedding, dragged him back. And my father said to my mother was right. I shouldn't be marrying you. But now I'm doing it because I'm forced. But you should know I'll be leaving tomorrow for Germany alone. I'm just doing it because I have to. And my mother said she just felt after the wedding she'll kill herself. He was always talking about killing herself, but she never did it. So they had the wedding, and then they went to some little house, and the custom was that all the townspeople would try to look in the window of this little house to see whether the couple were consummating the marriage, whatever they were doing. So they went to this little house, and my mother was when I knew her, she was a size, I don't know if they have those sizes today, she used to be a size 42, 44. She was maybe 5'5", and she was a solidly built woman. But in those days, because she used to have a beautiful blue, light blue lacy bra, a girdle with a matching fan. It was light blue with a matching fan. And I asked her, what was the point of having a girdle with a matching fan? Who sees you in a girdle with a fan? I never figured that one out, but that's what she had. And she was slim. And she wore cotton to make her breasts look bigger. So apparently when they went into this little house, she changed clothes. She mistakenly left those cotton breasts in the bathroom. And my father came into the bedroom holding those, and he says, what are these? So she said she knew it was all over that when he saw that. But she told him what it was, and he laughed, and everything was fine. And the next morning, they left together for Germany. So they were on the train a short time when all of a sudden my father said, oh, I forgot the luggage. He says, I'll get off and I'll meet you at the next station. And he jumps off the train. So my mother's sitting there, and some man who's nearby came over to her and said, you're traveling here alone? And she said, well, yes, but she just got married, and her husband forgot the luggage, and he's going to get it, and they'll meet her at the next station. So this man says, are you kidding? He says, you'll never see that man again. My mother said, oh, my God, here she is going on a train to Germany by herself. She doesn't know the language over there. And that my father will know, this made sense what this man said, and that my father will never come back. So she's sitting there wondering, what the hell is she going to do? And they come to the next station, and my father pops up with the luggage. I never figured out how he managed this. So then they get to Germany. My father hasn't got a job. So my mother went to his boss and said, look, I'm the wife that he went to marry, and, he's a good tailor, and this and that and everything. And he took him back. My father went back to work for him. So my mother didn't trust my father. So the uncle did give a second noten, and he gave my mother a little money, just to have a little money for herself. And she always kept it in a cupboard there. And whenever she came home, she looked in that cupboard if that money was there, and when she saw it, she felt better. She felt good. So one afternoon, she came home and she looked in the cupboard, and the money wasn't there. So when my father came home, she said, I have to tell you something. I've had this little bit of money that the uncle gave me, and just in case something went wrong with us or whatever, so I would have something of my own. And I looked there today, and it wasn't there. So my father said, that's right. I took it. I didn't marry you for love. I married you for your money, and now I have it. So my mother said, oh, my God. And she again went to the window. She was going to jump out, and my father caught her and took her in his arms and says, you don't have to hide money from me. We are married. We are together. And they made it up, and that's how they started their married life.